Ladies and gentlemen, wildfires have always been a part of California's natural landscape, but in recent years, they have become more frequent, more intense, and more devastating. The question many people ask is, why do they spread so fast? The answer lies in a deadly combination of factors. First, let's talk about the climate. California has been experiencing hotter and drier conditions due to climate change. The lack of rainfall means that forests, grasslands, and brush are bone dry, creating the perfect fuel for a wildfire. A single spark can ignite an inferno. Then, there are the Santa Ana winds, nature's own accelerant. These powerful, dry winds can turn a small fire into a raging blaze in a matter of hours. Moving at speeds of up to 60 miles per hour, they carry embers for miles, sparking new fires in unpredictable places. Another key factor is urban expansion. As more homes and communities are built near fire-prone areas, the risk increases dramatically. People and property stand directly in the path of destruction, making evacuation and firefighting efforts even more challenging. And while wildfires are a natural phenomenon, many are caused by human activity, downed power lines, unattended campfires, discarded cigarettes, and even intentional acts of arson. One small mistake can lead to a disaster that takes weeks to contain and years to recover from. Our firefighters work tirelessly to battle these blazes, but they face an uphill struggle. Fast-moving fires mean they often have minutes, not hours, to respond before neighborhoods are engulfed. Despite advanced technology and emergency preparedness, the unpredictable nature of wildfires makes them one of the greatest challenges Los Angeles faces. So what can we do? We must be vigilant, take preventive measures, and support policies that reduce fire risk. Because when a wildfire starts in LA, every second counts. Wildfires in Los Angeles don't just happen randomly. They are fueled by a dangerous combination of climate and weather conditions that have been worsening over time. Understanding how these factors contribute to the rapid spread of fires is crucial to addressing the problem. Los Angeles, like much of California, experiences a Mediterranean climate characterized by hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters. However, in recent years, this natural pattern has been disrupted by climate change. Global temperatures are rising, and California is feeling the effects firsthand. Warmer temperatures mean that moisture evaporates more quickly from the soil and vegetation, leaving behind dry, brittle plant material that acts as fuel for wildfires. When a fire starts in these conditions, it spreads at an alarming rate. Another major factor is prolonged drought. California has experienced multiple drought periods over the last 2 decades, with some lasting several years. During these dry spells, rivers and reservoirs shrink, and the landscape becomes parched. Trees, grass, and shrubs that would normally retain some moisture become extremely dry, turning entire forests into tinderboxes, waiting for a spark. Even when some rain does fall, it is often not enough to replenish the groundwater or significantly reduce the risk of fire. Heat waves further amplify the danger. In the hottest months of the year, temperatures in Los Angeles can soar well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. These extreme temperatures not only dry out vegetation even more but also lower humidity levels in the air. Low humidity means that any moisture left in plants evaporates quickly, making it even easier for fires to ignite and spread. Another key player in this perfect storm is wind patterns. While we often talk about the Santa Ana winds, even before they arrive, hot and dry conditions set the stage for disaster. When a fire starts, it creates its own wind currents as hot air rises and pulls in surrounding air. This effect, known as a fire-generated weather system, can intensify flames, create unpredictable fire behavior, and even produce fire tornadoes, which can carry embers over long distances and start new fires miles away. All of these climate and weather factors create a self-perpetuating cycle. The more fires that burn, the more carbon dioxide they release into the atmosphere. This contributes to further warming, which in turn leads to more frequent and severe wildfires. Scientists warn that unless significant action is taken to address climate change, these conditions will only worsen in the coming years. This is why understanding the relationship between climate, weather, and wildfire spread is so important. It's not just about fighting fires when they happen. It's about addressing the root causes and taking proactive measures to reduce the risks before they spiral out of control. One of the biggest reasons wildfires in Los Angeles spread so quickly is the abundance of dry vegetation acting as fuel. Imagine trying to start a campfire. If you use wet logs or fresh green leaves, the fire struggles to catch. But if you use dry twigs, dead leaves, or parched grass, the flames ignite almost instantly and spread rapidly. That's exactly what happens in LA's wildfire-prone areas on a much larger, more dangerous scale. California's vegetation, a double-edged sword. Los Angeles and much of Southern California are home to a variety of plant life, but many of these plants have adapted to the region's dry climate in ways that make them particularly flammable. Chaparral, sagebrush, and dry grasses are widespread across the hills and mountains, and while they thrive in drought conditions, they also become highly combustible. Chaparral, for example, has oily leaves that contain flammable compounds. When ignited, these oils help fires spread faster, almost like throwing gasoline on flames. Similarly, eucalyptus trees, which are common in California, have bark that peels off easily, creating piles of highly flammable debris at their base. When fires start, these trees can literally explode due to the heat and the oil in their leaves. Drought and vegetation die off. In recent years, prolonged droughts have led to massive vegetation die-offs. Trees that are weakened by a lack of water become stressed, making them more vulnerable to pests, disease, and ultimately death. Dead trees and plants don't just stay in one place. They fall to the ground, piling up like kindling. When fire reaches these areas, it burns through them like a matchstick, feeding off the built-up fuel and spreading rapidly. Even after fire has passed, the problem isn't over. Burnt areas often leave behind a layer of dried-out, partially burned vegetation known as duff. This material can smolder for days or even weeks underground, only to reignite when conditions are right, creating secondary fires that start seemingly out of nowhere. Fire-adapted landscapes. California's natural ecosystems have evolved with fire, but the problem today is the frequency and intensity of these fires. Historically, small wildfires would clear out dead vegetation in a controlled way. However, with climate change and human activity altering the landscape, we now see megafires, huge blazes that burn hotter, faster, and more destructively than ever before. Another challenge is that after a wildfire burns through an area, fast-growing invasive plants often take over. Unlike native plants that have adapted to occasional fires, these invasive species, like cheatgrass, grow quickly and dry out even faster, creating even more fuel for the next fire. This creates a vicious cycle where each fire leaves behind the perfect conditions for the next one. The role of urban landscaping. Beyond wildlands, human landscaping choices also contribute to fire risk. Many neighborhoods in Los Angeles are built near the wildland-urban interface, where homes meet undeveloped natural areas. People plant beautiful but flammable vegetation, such as juniper bushes, cypress trees, and dry palm fronds, which can catch fire and spread flames to homes. Unmaintained yards, overgrown lots, and dry gardens become additional sources of fuel, allowing wildfires to leap from the hills into residential areas. How fire uses fuel to move. When a wildfire starts, it spreads in three main ways. Surface fires, burning through dry grass, shrubs, and fallen leaves, quickly racing across the ground. Crown fires, climbing trees and jumping from treetop to treetop, especially in dense forests. Ember storms, strong winds carry burning embers far ahead of the fire, sparking new blazes in unexpected places. Because of LA's dry vegetation and frequent winds, embers can travel miles, igniting fires in areas that seemed safe just minutes before. The bottom line is that dry vegetation is like gasoline for wildfires. Once ignited, it fuels the flames, intensifies the fire, and allows it to spread at alarming speeds. Without proper land management and fire prevention strategies, the situation will only worsen. One of the most dangerous factors in Los Angeles wildfires is the presence of Santa Ana winds, a natural phenomenon that turns small fires into raging infernos in a matter of hours. These strong, Dry winds have been nicknamed nature's blowtorch because they act like a giant fan, intensifying flames, spreading embers over long distances, and making it nearly impossible for firefighters to control a blaze. What are the Santa Ana winds? Santa Ana winds are powerful, hot, dry winds that sweep through Southern California, typically from September to April. Unlike the usual coastal breezes that bring cool, moist air from the Pacific Ocean, Santa Ana winds blow in the opposite direction, originating in the deserts of the Great Basin and moving westward toward the ocean. These winds funnel through mountain passes and canyons, gaining speed and drying out the already arid landscape. These winds can reach speeds of 40 to 60 miles per hour in many areas, and in extreme cases, gusts can exceed 80 miles per hour, as strong as a Category 1 hurricane. The stronger the winds, the faster a wildfire spreads. A blaze that might have taken days to move through an area under normal conditions can cover miles in just hours when driven by Santa Ana winds. How do Santa Ana winds make fires worse? The Santa Ana winds contribute to the rapid spread of wildfires in several ways. Fanning the flames, the intense winds supply wildfires with a steady flow of oxygen, making the flames burn hotter and move faster. Just as blowing on a campfire makes it burn more intensely, the same happens on a massive scale with Santa Ana-driven wildfires. Carrying embers over long distances. One of the biggest dangers during a Santa Ana wind event is ember showers. Burning embers from a wildfire can be lifted into the air and carried miles away, landing on dry grass, rooftops, and trees, igniting spot fires far ahead of the main blaze. This makes predicting and containing wildfires nearly impossible, turning small fires into mega fires. Without strong winds, a small fire might burn at a slower pace, allowing firefighters to respond effectively. But when Santa Ana winds are present, they can whip a tiny spark into a monstrous inferno in minutes. Fires that would have been manageable under normal conditions quickly spiral out of control, consuming thousands of acres in a single day. Lowering humidity to dangerous levels, Santa Ana winds don't just bring speed, they also bring extreme dryness. As these winds move from the desert through mountain passes, they heat up and lose all moisture, dropping humidity levels to as low as 5%. This creates an environment where everything is primed to burn: trees, grass, brush, and even homes. In these conditions, a fire doesn't just spread, it explodes. Historical disasters fueled by Santa Ana winds. Some of California's most destructive wildfires have occurred during Santa Ana wind events. The Woolsey Fire, 2018, burned nearly 97,000 acres in Los Angeles and Ventura counties, destroying thousands of homes. The fire moved so fast that many residents had only minutes to evacuate. The Thomas Fire, 2017, one of California's largest wildfires, was driven by intense Santa Ana winds, consuming over 280,000 acres and forcing mass evacuations. The Cedar Fire, 2003, spread at an unbelievable rate due to Santa Ana winds, burning 273,000 acres and becoming one of the most destructive fires in California history. Each of these fires had one thing in common: strong Santa Ana winds that made them virtually unstoppable. Challenges for firefighters. Santa Ana winds create one of the most challenging firefighting conditions possible. Fire crews are not only battling the flames, but also dealing with unpredictable wind shifts that can cause fires to change direction without warning. This puts both firefighters and residents at extreme risk. Helicopters and planes that normally drop water or fire retardant struggle to operate in high winds, limiting aerial firefighting efforts. Ground crews often have to make difficult decisions about where to fight the fire and where to evacuate because containment efforts can be rendered useless when winds push the fire past fire breaks or control lines. A recurring threat. What makes Santa Ana winds particularly dangerous is that they happen every year. Firefighters and emergency responders brace for fire season knowing that when these winds arrive, any fire that starts can become catastrophic in a matter of hours. And as climate change intensifies, the frequency and severity of these wind-driven fires are only expected to increase. One of the most alarming reasons wildfires in Los Angeles spread so fast is the constant expansion of urban areas into fire-prone landscapes. As cities grow and more homes are built near forests, hillsides, and dry brushlands, the risk of wildfire devastation increases dramatically. What was once a problem confined to remote wilderness areas is now a direct threat to densely populated neighborhoods, making wildfires deadlier and harder to control. The wildland-urban interface, where fire and homes collide. Los Angeles has one of the largest wildland-urban interfaces, WUI, in the country, zones where human development meets natural vegetation. These areas, such as Malibu, Topanga Canyon, and the Santa Monica Mountains, are known for their scenic beauty, but they are also high-risk wildfire zones. The closer homes are built to dry brush and forests, the more likely they are to be consumed when a wildfire ignites. The problem is that homes themselves become fuel for fires. When a wildfire reaches a neighborhood, it doesn't just burn trees and grass, it jumps from house to house, feeding off wooden structures, furniture, and flammable landscaping. This creates a domino effect, where fires spread much faster in suburban areas than they would in open wilderness. How urban growth makes fires worse. Urban expansion contributes to wildfire spread in several ways. More ignition sources. As people move into fire-prone areas, the likelihood of accidental fires increases. Electrical power lines, backyard fire pits, cigarette butts, and even cars overheating on dry grass can all ignite a blaze. In many cases, human activity is the spark that starts the fire. Narrow roads and difficult evacuations. Many homes in fire-prone areas are built along narrow, winding roads. When a wildfire spreads rapidly, residents often struggle to evacuate because of traffic congestion, blocked roads, and limited escape routes. In past fires, people have been trapped because they couldn't leave in time. Increased firefighting challenges. Firefighters have a harder time controlling fires in urban areas because they must protect both the landscape and homes. This divides their resources, making containment more difficult. They also face obstacles like cars, fences, and gas lines, which can explode or block access points. Flammable landscaping choices. Many homeowners unknowingly plant highly flammable vegetation around their houses. Trees like eucalyptus and pine, which are common in LA, have resin-filled leaves and bark that burn easily. Even everyday landscaping choices, like dry mulch and untrimmed bushes, can help fire spread. Wind-driven firestorms. When wildfires reach urban areas, they often create their own wind patterns, generating fire tornadoes and ember storms. These embers can fly ahead of the main fire and ignite new fires blocks away, making it impossible to predict where the next fire will start. The high cost of building in fire zones. Despite the known risks, housing development continues in fire-prone areas because of high demand for scenic, hillside properties. Some of LA's most desirable neighborhoods are also its most dangerous when it comes to wildfire risk. Every year, more homes are built in places where fires have burned before, increasing the chances of history repeating itself. Homeowners in these areas often face skyrocketing insurance costs, or even find that insurance companies refuse to cover them at all. The financial toll of rebuilding after a wildfire is enormous, with some communities taking years to recover from a single disaster. Why fire-resistant design matters. Some solutions can help reduce wildfire destruction in urban areas, such as fire-resistant building materials, metal roofs, and defensible space, clearing brush and debris around homes. However, many older homes were not built with fire safety in mind, making them highly vulnerable. Fire experts warn that as urban expansion continues, wildfires will become deadlier and more frequent. The challenge now is balancing the need for housing with the reality that building in high-risk areas puts entire communities in danger. While wildfires are a natural part of California's ecosystem, the majority of fires in Los Angeles are started by human activity. Whether through accidents, negligence, or intentional acts, people play a major role in igniting these fast-moving disasters. With LA's hot, dry conditions and frequent high winds, even the smallest spark can set off an inferno that spreads uncontrollably. How human activities spark wildfires. There are several ways human activity contributes to wildfire outbreaks, many of which are entirely preventable. Power lines and electrical equipment. One of the leading causes of wildfires in California is faulty electrical infrastructure. Overhead power lines, transformers, and other equipment can spark fires when they malfunction, short-circuit, or are blown down by strong winds. The dry vegetation underneath these lines acts as perfect kindling, allowing flames to spread instantly. Some of the most destructive fires in California history, including the 2018 Camp Fire, which destroyed the town of Paradise, were caused by aging or poorly maintained electrical lines. In high-risk fire seasons, power companies sometimes shut off electricity to prevent fires, but this leads to widespread blackouts, affecting homes, businesses, and emergency services. Unattended campfires and outdoor burning. While campfires and barbecues are common in California, they can quickly become dangerous if not properly managed. Many wildfires start when campers fail to fully extinguish their fires, allowing embers to smolder and reignite hours later. Backyard burning, such as clearing yard waste with fire, is another common cause of wildfires when flames spread beyond control. Cigarettes and littering. One of the simplest but most overlooked causes of wildfires is improperly discarded cigarettes. A single lit cigarette thrown from a car window can land in dry grass, sparking a blaze. Other flammable litter, like glass bottles, can act as a magnifying glass under the sun, intensifying heat on dry vegetation and leading to ignition. Vehicle sparks and machinery, cars, trucks, and even lawn equipment can start fires in unexpected ways. Hot engines and exhaust pipes can ignite dry grass when parked off-road. Dragging chains from trailers can create sparks on pavement, which can ignite roadside brush. Construction equipment, welding torches, and even lawnmowers have all been responsible for starting major wildfires. Arson. Fires set on purpose. Unfortunately, not all wildfires are accidental. Arson, the deliberate setting of fires, accounts for a significant portion of wildfire outbreaks in LA. Some individuals start fires for personal, criminal, or psychological reasons. In certain cases, arsonists take advantage of dry conditions and high winds, knowing that once a fire begins, it will be difficult to stop. Some of the largest wildfires in California history, including the Esperanza Fire, 2006, which killed 5 firefighters, were intentionally set. Fireworks and celebrations. Fireworks are a huge fire hazard, especially during 4th of July celebrations. In dry conditions, a single firework landing in the wrong place can start a massive wildfire. Sky lanterns, though beautiful, are also dangerous as they float unpredictably and can ignite dry brush when they land. How small sparks become infernos. In Los Angeles, the difference between a harmless spark and a devastating wildfire is just a matter of seconds. A fire that starts as a small ember can spread rapidly, especially under the right conditions. Dry vegetation acts as fuel, allowing flames to move quickly. Strong winds carry embers miles ahead, igniting new fires. Steep hillsides cause flames to move faster uphill, making containment more difficult. When combined with factors like climate change, drought, and urban expansion, these human-caused fires become even more dangerous. More people means more chances for fires to start, making human behavior one of the most critical elements in wildfire prevention. Wildfires in Los Angeles spread with terrifying speed, but stopping them is an even greater challenge. Firefighters must battle extreme conditions, often facing walls of fire that stretch for miles, intense heat, and unpredictable winds that can turn a controlled situation into chaos in seconds. Even with modern firefighting equipment, aerial support, and thousands of trained personnel, some wildfires still burn out of control for days or even weeks, leaving behind destruction in their wake. The complexity of fighting wildfires. Unlike house fires, which can often be contained within a few hours, wildfires are a moving, unpredictable force of nature. A fire that starts in a remote canyon can spread to homes, businesses, and entire communities before firefighters even have a chance to respond. The vast scale of these fires means that suppression efforts require thousands of personnel, coordination between multiple agencies, and the ability to adapt to fast-changing conditions. There are 3 primary strategies used to fight wildfires. Direct attack. Firefighters work at the edge of the flames, using hoses, water drops, and fire retardants to slow the fire's advance. This is the most effective method for small or slow-moving fires, but it becomes nearly impossible when flames are too intense, too fast, or too unpredictable. Indirect attack. When flames are too large to fight head-on, crews work ahead of the fire, creating fire breaks, cleared areas of land where vegetation is removed to prevent the fire from spreading. Fire breaks can be created by bulldozers, controlled burns, or manually clearing brush, but if winds are strong, embers can jump over fire breaks, rendering them ineffective. Aerial firefighting. Helicopters and planes drop thousands of gallons of water and fire retardant on flames and ahead of advancing fires. While these drops are highly effective, they are expensive, limited in supply, and dependent on weather conditions. If winds are too strong, aerial drops become dangerous and ineffective. Challenges firefighters face. 1. Extreme weather conditions. Wildfires create their own weather systems, including fire tornadoes, ember storms, and sudden wind shifts. These conditions make it incredibly difficult for crews to predict where the fire will go next. Strong winds can suddenly push flames in a new direction, forcing firefighters to retreat and reposition. Intense heat can create fire whirls, spinning vortexes of flame that move unpredictably. Embers carried by wind can ignite new fires miles away, making containment efforts seem futile. 2. Limited access to fire zones. Many wildfires in Los Angeles start in remote, rugged terrain where roads are scarce or non-existent. Fire crews must hike for miles through steep hillsides carrying heavy gear, which slows response time and puts them at risk. Narrow canyon roads make it difficult for fire trucks to reach the front lines. Hiking into active fire zones is dangerous due to unpredictable fire behavior. Evacuating residents can clog roads, delaying firefighting efforts. 3. Limited water supply. Unlike fighting a city fire, where hydrants provide a steady water source, wildfires often occur in areas without access to water. Fire crews must rely on water tankers, helicopters, and nearby lakes or reservoirs. However, drought conditions can mean lakes and reservoirs are too low to supply water drops. Local water pressure is weak or unavailable due to high demand. Fires move too fast for crews to set up adequate water lines. 4. The scale of modern fires. Wildfires today are larger and more intense than ever before. Some fires burn across hundreds of thousands of acres, making full containment nearly impossible. A small fire in the morning can spread to thousands of acres by nightfall, overwhelming resources. Fires can burn for weeks before they are fully extinguished. Even after flames are put out, smoldering embers can reignite new fires. 5. The Wildland-Urban Interface, WUI. Fighting fires in densely populated areas adds another layer of complexity. Firefighters must decide whether to focus on protecting homes or stopping the fire's spread. Sometimes, they cannot do both. Firefighters prioritize saving lives over property, but this means some homes are left unprotected. If multiple fires break out at once, resources are spread thin, making it harder to fight every fire effectively. Some residents refuse to evacuate, putting themselves and firefighters at risk. The mental and physical toll on firefighters. Wildland firefighting is one of the most dangerous and exhausting jobs in the world. Firefighters work in 120-degree heat, carrying 60 to 80 pounds of gear, often without rest for 24 to 48 hours at a time. Smoke inhalation can cause long-term lung damage. Heat exhaustion and dehydration are constant dangers. Stress and trauma take a heavy mental toll as firefighters witness entire towns burn and sometimes lose colleagues in the line of duty. The rising cost of firefighting. Fighting wildfires has become incredibly expensive, costing California billions of dollars each year. Resources such as aerial water drops, fire crews, and emergency response efforts all come at a high price. In 2020 alone, California spent over $1 billion on firefighting efforts. Taxpayers ultimately bear the cost, and the burden is growing each year. Despite the heroic efforts of firefighters, some wildfires are simply unstoppable. The combination of extreme weather, rugged terrain, and urban expansion means that even the most advanced firefighting strategies are sometimes no match for the fury of nature. In conclusion, the rapid spread of wildfires in Los Angeles is a multifaceted issue, shaped by a combination of climatic conditions, human actions, and firefighting limitations. As the city continues to expand into fire-prone areas and climate change exacerbates dry conditions, the challenge of preventing and controlling these wildfires only grows. While we can't prevent every fire, the key lies in preparing for the worst, improving building practices, expanding fire-resistant infrastructure, and fostering a culture of responsible land use and fire prevention. The work of firefighters, scientists, and emergency responders is invaluable, but it's also a collective responsibility for all of us to understand and adapt to the risks associated with living in a fire-prone region. Whether it's through creating defensible spaces around homes, advocating for better forest management, or supporting policies that address climate change, we all play a role in mitigating the devastating impacts of wildfires. As we face this growing challenge, we must remember that prevention, preparation, and awareness are the best tools in minimizing the destruction caused by these deadly fires. Together, we can ensure a safer, more resilient future for Los Angeles and beyond.